All right, so you explain the format. So we begin meditation, talk, conversation, questions, and then another meditation to close. And we'll try to end at a reasonable time. Okay. All right, so begin with the intention to meditate. And have this intention be communicated to the other parts of your being. And feel the body responding to your intention to meditate. Your body, the intelligence in the body, it knows the state of meditation and it wants to go there. So it is responding in a way that is cooperative and positive. It is that intelligence in the body that's giving you the hints about making adjustments in the legs, in the torso, in the arms and shoulders, in how you center the head and neck, allowing the mouth, teeth, tongue to rest in their natural places, allowing the muscles of the face and forehead to relax, feeling a soft resting with the eyes. By allowing this guidance from the intelligence in the body itself, and by responding, you begin to feel through the body that you're touching the meditative state. A state that is more in a sensation of calm, pleasantness, further qualified by a sense of clarity, radiance, and a sense of directional ability of attention. And there's a part in the mind protecting, wants to hold on to the body. So you have to communicate to that part of the mind that the body is secure. It's been protected. It's being held by feeling the sense of contact between the body and your seat. Just bring awareness to that sensation of the point of contact. And once you feel that, just let the body go. And you may feel a sense of sinking slightly into your seat. And the pleasantness, sense of calm, slightly enhanced. Rejoice upon witnessing this. Welcome this experience. And gently, as though you're at the threshold to fully commit to enter into the meditative state. And there's this intuitive understanding, knowing of what this meditative state is supposed to be. Stay connected to it, in however vague it may be. Made it with a commitment to fully enter. And with that commitment, take a nice deep breath, and that is your commitment to enter. Through the nose, gently, fully breathe in. And as you release the breath, that's the commitment. Through the mouth, let go. And as you let go, 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 feel the sense of calm enhancing in the body, feel the sense of calm enhancing in the breath. Keep letting go, keep letting go, keep letting go, keep letting go, keep letting go. Feel your body might even be sinking a little bit deeper into the seat. That's good. Keep letting go, keep rejoicing, keep walking, welcoming these signs, enhancing in the body, in the breath, in the mouth. And you feel a sense of or momentum taking you deeper into that state. Keep going, keep going, keep going. Keep letting go, keep letting go. And once you are aware of the enhancement in the calm, in the pleasantness, then there might be inner sensations arising. These are the signs of touching clarity, touching natural luminosity of the mind. Welcome these signs. And while it's in 6 weeks, gently scan the body, the legs, notice the signs, rejoice. In the torso, from the hips all the way to the shoulders. Connect with the signs, rejoice. From the shoulders to the fingers, relax, connect with the signs, rejoice. Feel the head and neck, connect with the signs, relax, rejoice. Mouth, teeth, tongue, muscles of the face, forehead, the soft resting of the eyes. Stay with the signs, rejoicing in their presence. Now we are swimming in the space of meditation. Keep reminding yourself that you are in that space to enhance the experience of that space by every once in a while being aware of the signs in the body, in the breath, or the mind. Now let's stabilize and further enhance with 3 full breaths. And as you release the exhalation, really have the intention of completely releasing yourself as deeply as possible, holding in the mind that sense of being connected to that intuitive knowing of the meditative state, as if you are diving into it further and further. So through the nose, gently breathe in. Through the mouth, release. Through the nose again, the second time, breathe in. And through the mouth. Let go. For the third time, breathe in and release. as you witness yourself in the sign. Rejoice. And gently raise your attention to the level of your eyebrows, staying experiencing the signs. And one of them may be more prominent in your experience, so stay connected to that and don't have to be attached to it. If it goes away and another sign becomes prominent, then stay with whichever sign becomes prominent without expectation of another sign coming in. With your attention in that space, begin to feel the presence of your potential appearing in a brilliant form, appearing specifically to guide you and to protect you. So accept the protection, accept the guidance with a deep sense of respect, trust, and gratitude. I want you to do a few breaths where you're focusing on the exhalation and allowing yourself to go deeper into the experience with an openness. Your mind is free to have discursive thoughts taking place, but you're not attached to expressing every experience through some sort of discursive form of thinking, but you're open to it. So deliberately use discursive thinking to describe the experience as you simply stay open, open to understanding. Each time you breathe out, have a sense of going deeper into that openness. with that openness, invite that light to come into your heart. Breathe in gently, normally. See it approaching closer and closer. Either intuitively through whatever point it wishes to enter into your heart, through your crown, through your forehead, your throat, or directly to your heart. And as you breathe out, just surrender to the experience. So no matter what the experience may be, whether it seems exactly like the one just before, or not as deep as I would like it to be, whatever the experience, rejoice that you're having it. Like going to a completely different planet and it looks exactly like the planet you came from. And you are overjoyed to see this planet, even though everything you are seeing, you've seen before, but you are not. Okay, with that presence in your heart, your mind open. Now let's come out of the meditation. Taking with us that sense of open to revisit things that we have already known and to visit things that we have not yet known. Okay, through the nose, a nice deep breath. And through the mouth, release. And consciously, deliberately reconnect with your environment. Be aware of your environment through your sense of touch, your sense of hearing, and deliberately through your sense of sight. Okay. Thank you very much. All right. Let's see. Oh my goodness. Okay. We did do a meditation once that was as long as this. I mean, not as long as this meditation, but that lasted up to this time. Okay. It's very weird what's happening with me now because I'm hearing my voice twice when I'm speaking it and then coming through this. So I may say something and that's it. Okay. To begin the talk, I wish I had the direct quote, but it goes something like this. But I'm more with paraphrasing than direct quoting. If it's really good for one, then it will be good for everyone. And the term that we should be really aware of in that is is it really good? And not in the sense of a child who wants something, even though the thing that they want might be harmful to them. okay? And getting what you want, that's not what it means by if it's really good for you. It's not that if you really want it, then the way it will make you happy, it will make everybody else happy. But rather, if it's really good for you, then in a sense, it will be good for everyone. And it's not to, and I'm going to break this down, it's not to take it to understand that if gluten is good for you, then gluten will be good for everyone. But rather, if gluten, I'm going to say it in the opposite way. If it's good for you not to take gluten, then not taking gluten will be good for it. That is, you not taking gluten will be good for everyone. Okay. I was thinking of a joke, but unfortunately, I wasn't even laughing when I was saying it to myself, so I'm not gonna say it. Okay. So that expression, if it's really good for one, then it will be good for everyone. That is, when everyone fulfill their own individual purposes, it becomes something that is good for the entire community. Okay. So if this person who's allergic to gluten doesn't stay away from gluten, I'm saying gluten because I'm supposed to stay away from it. Okay. If this person doesn't stay away from gluten, then that person becomes somewhat of a burden for the community at large, because they put themselves in danger where they're not able to fully participate in the what you might call the benefit or the goodness of the community at large. Okay. And also, and this is also to address, because even you could say Buddhism in itself, the way it's presented, it's almost like America. Because there is a sense, there is not the cultures where you may find Buddhism right nowadays, especially in the places where it's very popular, but in the doctrine itself. And when you go to individuals, it really is a promotion of individualism, in the sense of the ideal practitioner, somebody who knows the truth and then goes into the world. And if that person has to be completely isolated from everyone so that they can stay with their truth, that person is following the Dharma. Okay. But it doesn't mean that that person, in order to follow their truth, they can damage the community in order for them to do that. But it respects the individual's search for truth, for what fulfills their sense of being. But at the same time, it understands that there will be a participation from the community. There will be contribution from the community in order for that individual to fulfill its individual purpose. When you encounter the earlier forms of the interpretation of the teaching, there seems to be an emphasis on an individual, in a sense of you're reminded all the time, the Buddha is not going to take your hand into nirvana. You have to do the work yourself. So that's a sense of individualism. And also, in the early days, many practitioners left communities and went on soul journeys all by themselves. And they pride themselves on their individuality, that they would join a community if they want to. they were not forced, they were not obligated to join a community. But when those individuals, very hard-headed individuals, decided to form a community of hard-headed individuals, so they had to come up with system of communing so that the community, that is the collective of the individuals, is not compromised, while at the same time not compromising the quest of the individual. So there have to be a compromise. And we're going to take this into a more, what seemed to be more mystical kind of thing, but I'm not talking about the mystic that that people, some people, you know, have a bit of aversion for, but rather I'm going to be using language that would seem to be mystical, but I'm not trying to be mystical. Okay. I'm trying not to be mystical, but I'm having a lot of mystical words coming into my head. Okay, can take that. We cannot really take care of the self I if we don't really understand the nature of the self, of me, who I am. So I can't really take care of myself. And because I'm stuck in this, I'm saying stuck because I'm because of what I'm hearing in my head. Sorry. So words will come out sounding weird because it sounds like I said it and I'm not really. Okay, let me start back. Because we are stuck in this confusion about who we are, it would be unwise for us to try to go out to help other individuals, other selves that we don't understand. So from that perspective, there seems to be a selfish, but a beneficial sense, kind of selfishness, where you're asked, take care of yourself. That is, come to understand yourself. Because if you don't understand yourself, you don't understand what a self is, and you're gonna go out trying to help other selves, with your misunderstanding, you may end up harming. So to avoid the harming, then the individual is asked, stay home, take care of yourself, take care of your stuff. Then once you have some sense of understanding of an individual, some sense of understanding of what a self is, then when you go out to help, to try to be a benefit to selves, you have a better understanding of what the self is. Okay. So that's one level of understanding, where take care of yourself, where it might seem to be the individualistic kind of approach. Now, it's going to get, that didn't sound too mystical, but it's going to get mystical. There it is. There it is. So as you begin to understand the self, the more and more you begin to understand the self, the limits of what we initially understood to be the self begins to expand. So it's not that self must not be taken care of when it is here, and it should be taken care of only when it is over there. The thing is, self must be taken care of, but there must be a clear understanding, a clear sense of what self is. At first, the way we understand self is the psychological or socially understood sense of what we might say selfish. The person here, not the person there. That's what we say self. So when you hear take care of self, automatically, because of our misunderstanding of what self is, we think what we are hearing is take care of what's over there, what's here, forget about what's there. That's how it's understood. Okay. But that's not what it's meant. But in the beginning, when we are refining our understanding of self, yes, take care of this, but take care of it in such a way that you're really taking care of it. Remember, from the very beginning, when you really take care of self, when something really benefits self, really benefits, it benefits others. Okay, and in a way that we can sort of really understand this, like smoking, for example, right? If smoking really is beneficial for you, then one person smoking will benefit others. And we're not in a sense of, the people who are in the room with you kind of thing. But rather, even if you're all the way in China smoking, if it's really good for you, we will in some way experience something that is beneficial that came from you smoking all the way in China. That's in the sense of what it means. But if it's really good for you, it will be good. It is good for everyone. Okay. All right. And the reason for that, that's where it becomes, now the mystical part of it is going to become a bit more and more. Okay. The self is truly amazing. And what I'm pointing to, the attribute about the self, the quality about the self that I'm pointing to, that what I'm saying is truly amazing, is that it can be experienced as something which is limited, which is confined, which is what we might call residing in this body and mind, only in this body and mind. And it will experience it, the reality for it will be this confined reality. But because the self is, because of the amazing quality of self, of being able to confine itself, right? You are a baby and there was self, and you grew and you become an adult. Did the self grow? Did the sense of self get bigger? You can't say it did, you can't say it didn't. Because asking that question is something that is, you could say, it is irrelevant. It is not within the reality of the nature of self. Okay, and because self abides, or its nature, its reality is in that realm, that when you getting closer and closer and closer to know it, you end up in this mystical world, because the reality that you've experienced with your five senses don't quite are not quite adequate to really communicate the nature that is being experienced. But right here, right now, there's what you might call a real sense, not ultimately real, but in terms of functional reality that I'm experiencing, the self is confined to this body and mind. And because the self, as you could say, is so flexible in how it can be experienced, then we can experience a self that is limited, that is confined, and it will be a real experience. But that is not the nature of the self. And as we come to get closer and closer and closer to understand the self, we find that the self can be extended to the point where, in the same way that I have a concern for what I call myself, taking care of it, making sure it avoids things that it doesn't want, making sure it gets things that it wants, things that benefit it. That same attitude of caring for the self can be extended, like for a partner, where the sense of self is extended, where each member of that partnership extend the sense of selves, and in a sense, that sense of caring is equal. The same way the same way they feel about their own contentment, their own happiness, they extend it to the other. Okay, but as we somewhat become sophisticated in this understanding, we are also taking with us, we are taking with us our confusion. So we are confused about the self confined to this body and mind. And we broke down some of that confusion, and we discovered that the sense of caring that we have about the self can also be extended to the same degree that we care about ourselves. We can care about another. In that confusion, we might place an emphasis, and I think that's because of habit of playing emphasis on a self. So we get confused about, should I put an emphasis on taking care of this self, or should I put an emphasis on taking care of the other? And for some reason, we become conditioned to think that, depending on what level of spirituality or conditioning you grew up in, that it's better to take care of the self when you see it over there, rather than over here. To the point where you're even willing to sacrifice the happiness of the self here for the happiness of the self there. So remember the very first thing that we said. It cannot be, if it's a true, it cannot be, okay, we cannot say, well, in this situation, this condition, it doesn't apply. It must still continue to apply. If you're taking care of someone and you're harming yourself in order to take care of that person, and the harm that you continue to inflict upon yourself continuously, I mean, it's okay, like if the harming is a kind of a medicine, like you take a medicine that tastes bad, or you do undergo a surgery that is very painful, but that pain, its aim, its purpose is eventually to benefit you. Okay, so but if you continue to sacrifice yourself, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that to make it a bit more clear. If you continue to sacrifice yourself, where what you continuously witness yourself experiencing in this is harming yourself. You are witnessing it. You're a witness to, look, I am harming myself, with thinking that this will benefit this one. Eventually, you will harm yourself to a degree where your very act of seeming to benefit the other becomes poison for the other. Okay, so the expression, if it really benefits you, it will benefit others, all others. The opposite is true. If it's not beneficial to you, then it is not beneficial to others. If it's harmful to you, it will be harmful to others. And again, not in a sense of I am allergic to gluten, therefore everyone is allergic to gluten. Not in that way. But if I don't take care of myself, I'm not able to take care of others. And to the point where almost like the individual capitalist kind of a idea. So I threw a bad word in there. That when think of the herd, when a member of the herd is weak, then the other members have to contribute their strength to help that. So they're not as strong as they could be, those individuals. Okay, maybe that was a bad example, but the idea is, if you're in a relationship, for example, and you're harming yourself, thinking that this will be for the benefit of the other, or thinking that it will be a benefit for the relationship. The thing is, if it's not, and we have to be careful, if it's not like a needed, a surgery kind of pain that has a benefit in the end, then the aim of helping the other actually ends up harming the other. Another example that I can give you is someone comes, asks me for some kind of help. And it's a help that will harm me if I do it, right? If I can recover, then there will be, you could say it will eventually benefit me too, even though that's not my aim, okay? Someone comes, asks me for help, and in order for me to help that person, I have to harm myself. Okay, something very simple. What can I say? I don't have any food to eat next week. Okay, so someone comes and asks me to help them with that, and I'm in the same situation as that person. So instead of directing the person to another place where they can actually find the resource of abundance and take from that, where they will not be harming, but I allow it's not that I'm allowing the person to harm me, but I harm myself by depriving myself, and I give it to the person. I become weak, and now the person, I've made the person look to me as a source for that particular help, and that person is no longer looking somewhere else for that help. And now the person comes back to me because I made myself a source of that kind of help, and I deprived myself of that, and I wasn't able to replenish myself, and that person now is starving, and I'm starving with the person, and the person now is starving. So in that sense, by my appearing to sacrifice my own so I can help the person, I wasn't really helping him because I was harming myself in the process. Okay. But if I had allowed the person to know I am not a source of that help, then that person can go somewhere else where they can find it. We might fear that it will be selfish of me not to help the person because the person came to me, and somehow it is spiritually the wrong thing to do not to immediately offer the help that is being asked. Now the person is coming to you because somehow they feel through you, they can be connected to some aid, some help. It doesn't have to be exactly what they're asking for is what you have to give them. You might give them direction to somewhere else. Or if you don't have it and you have absolutely no idea where the person can go, now you've given the person the wisdom of knowing not to depend on you for that. Okay, now they can go somewhere else. And it doesn't have to be done in such a way where you shoot the person. Who do you think you are asking me where I don't have, it could be in a way, said in such a way, communicate in such a way where the person knows, comes to a point of knowledge. I cannot find that here. Okay. All right. So this is to explain the concept about what does it mean if it really benefits you and it benefits everyone. And if it's harmful to you, then it will be harmful to all. If it's harmful to one, harmful to all. Benefit to one, benefit to all. Okay. Right, now let's go into the mystical world I'm afraid to get into. Okay, so we started to get into it. The sense of self expanding. First, we experience it as a reality, not that you imagine a self that includes others, but in the same visceral way that you feel this is myself, in the same visceral way that you feel the self is confined here. If you allow yourself to go deeper into knowing the self, you will discover the self is expandable. And it's not like it's not like elastic where it has a certain form that you can stretch. Okay? But rather, you could say our awareness of the sense of self, that can, it's not like it's stretching, but rather it is knowing more and more of reality. And in knowing more and more about reality, like you going through a room and you know more and more of the stuff that's in the room. It doesn't mean that if I didn't know this before, or when I know it now that's when it's like my eyes stretched or something. Okay. But it's just a knowing the nature of self. Okay. The nature of self. Here it is. I'm going to drop the mystical stuff right here. Here's the nature of self. Nature of self is such that it can experience confinement and at the same time can experience no confinements whatsoever. And the confinement, that's flexible. It can be confined to an individual, to what I may call a person, and that same self can expand to become a couple, it becomes a family, becomes a neighborhood, becomes a country, becomes a species, becomes whatever. It keeps expanding, keeps seeming to expand. And it's not that the real nature from the very beginning was all those things, and the confusion was thinking that it was this confined state. Being the real nature of the self or not the real nature of the self, that question, whether is it real, is that the real nature of the self, or is this the real nature of the self? That question is irrelevant to the self. Because when the self is confined, it is confined. That is the reality of it. That is how it actually functions. And because it's not fixed to this sense of confinement, then it can experience itself as a couple. It can experience itself as a family. They can continue to experience itself continuously until, in the same visceral way that you want to take care of what you initially felt as the confined, what you call the confined self, in that same visceral way, you will want to tend to the wants and needs of however you expand it to. Okay. If it's confined to nationality, then the same way that you will respond when this body and mind is in need. You will respond to the need of this body and mind the same way in the same visceral way you will respond to the need of what you might call the nation or the family. Okay. Now, taking that into consideration about the self and the journey to get to that sense of the nature of the self, and that you could say at least you can say the nature of the self is that it is not something that can be, it's not something that is stuck at confinement, but can experience confinement. Okay. That's the only way to explain it, at least now. And the idea of the psychological understanding of the term selfishness, being selfish, what is being pointed to, like the bad selfishness, is an attitude where one has the sense of, in order for me to benefit this sense of confined self, I'm willing to harm what I see as other. That is selfishness in the bad sense. But it is, and that is something that is sort of breaking the law of, if it's really beneficial for you, for one, it will benefit all. So this one, in this sense, seeming to benefit the self by harming other, is really harming everyone, even the person who believes that they're benefiting themselves. You can think of well, I'll come back with that example later. Okay. So the other things of individualism that is to be encouraged and promoted is with the understanding that when you take care of self without the hidden agenda, I'm willing to harm someone else to protect self. Not without that agenda, but just the thing is, wherever self is experienced, I will take care of it. And since self is confined to here, I must do what really takes care, what really benefits the self. And when you're doing this, it's not with the intention, I will benefit self while I'm by harming others, but rather just, the sense of other is not even entering the picture. I'm just taking care of what appears as self. Okay. Then by doing that, we are actually taking care of the community. We're actually helping and strengthening the community. So all selves are taken care of by doing that. So when you take care of your health, you're taking care of everyone, not in a symbiosis kind of way where by taking care of your health, even someone who's sick will automatically, miraculously get well. Okay. But as a member of a community, by taking care of yourself, you strengthen the community, because what is the community after all but it's a collection of individuals. Right? So in that sense, without the hidden agenda, I'm willing to harm others in order to help. I'm willing to harm others in order to benefit self, which is uh, a wrong understanding of what self is. Okay. Okay. Now let's. Since you're already a little mystical, I'm gonna just get all mystical. Okay. Another quality about self to understand. So the first thing that I talked about, what I touched upon, is what you might call the fluidity of self. It's fluid. It's not confined, but it can experience confinement. But the confinement that it experiences is not its nature. Okay. Another quality of the self is, and this is where the idea of the term, if it really benefits you, then it will benefit all. And that is because of the quality of self. And what is that quality? Sorry, it's gonna get mystical, okay? And this is where people get stuck on what seems to be some sort of mystical understanding. Okay, the beginning word is relational. Relational. Okay? And relational is telling us that it's not that there's a blob of some dimension called self, but rather it is a magical, and I have to say magical because you can't really find, even if you go into it, even after finding this, it is weaving together of so many things. That's what a self is. It is your conditioning. It is your preconceived ideas. Yes, it is your body. Yes, it is your mind. But it is not your preconditioning. It is not the preconditioning by themselves. It is not the body itself. It is not the mind itself. It is not any of those things themselves, but the coming together of those things. They're coming together. That is self. Okay. So that's the relational quality of self. And because of the relational quality of self, we can, from that, we get, if it really harms a self, an individual, if it really harms one, it harms all. If it really benefits one, it benefits all. Okay, in that sense of, and I don't want to say it, even though like almost everyone feel like, not everyone, but a lot of people are thinking, oneness. Why don't you just say it? We're all one. And those of you who know me already know how my aversion for that. Okay, but the self, I'll put it this way, the way it is stated in, I forget exactly where, but I think it was Subhuti speaking to a follower of the disciple, explaining self to the disciple. And the way he explained it was, the self, it's like he's trying to use words to describe a magical, mystical mystery. And that's what the self is. He said, the self is not such a thing that you can, listen to this, that you can confine it to oneness. And it's not such a thing that you can confine it to multiplicity. It is something, as far as we can use words to describe it, beyond transcending oneness, transcending multiplicity, where it can, in a very visceral way, experience a sense of oneness, and in a very visceral way, experience individuality, and also can experience both simultaneously. Wow. You didn't know that one, huh? Especially for those of you who are afraid of falling into that oneness. Okay. Yes, there is the experience where the individual remains individuality, the individual remains intact, yet at the same time experiencing oneness, universal oneness. Okay. That you could say that's more of a truer experience of self. And this is the self that we're talking about. This very beautiful, incredible, mystical thing, experience that we call self. Of course, you have to take care of it. Of course, you have to take care of it. But first, you have to know what is the self. And don't begin with some sort of, don't begin with the mystical and then try and get to here. Begin with here and get to the mystical. And don't begin here thinking that this is what the intention, this is what I'm going to reject. But rather, this is what I'm going to really dive into, really knowing. What are my desires? What are my wishes without passing judgment? With the intention of really wanting to discover this beautiful mystery called self. And really want to take care of it. And wherever a sense of self is expressed or felt, to take care of it. When I see self over there, it is equally important to me to take care of self that I see over there, that I see over here. And this is what I mentioned about, I have to come back to it. Giving self what appeared to belong to here will never be a sacrifice. But if you feel that it's going to be a sacrifice, then there's a misunderstanding of self. Then you better not harm. Don't have in your memory bank the perception of harm self, whether it is self-perceived here or self-perceived there. Always take care of self. Eventually, we want to be able to get to that beautiful place where wherever we look, we just see self. And we want to take care of self. And that's when you have a real collective, a real community, where the individuals are taking care of the confined sense of self in the body, in the mind, but the relational sense of self, the collective experience of self is experienced. And also there's a desire to take care of that also, where there is never, I'm going to have to sacrifice in order for me to help you over there, because it's just the right hand giving to the left hand. I wonder if that's the sign that says, hey, you talk too much. Okay. So I hope that I covered the question. And unfortunately, the reason I'm saying unfortunately is because if you're very familiar with Buddhism, it seems like, oh my goodness, no matter what whatever they talk about, they always talk about self. some deep fundamental nature of the self that's supposed to be expressed. Well, sorry, that's the fundamental thing to understand. And in a social, psychological way, you can say, unless you're able to really take care of yourself, you can't take care of other selves. So in order for you to get to the point of really being able to take care of other selves, then really take care of the self you've got, the self that you have a visceral sense of. Then you can expand it. And there will be no such thing as I'm making a sacrifice here. Okay. All right. Safety and freedom. I hope that's somehow covered in everything that I just said, because that would be another completely another talk if I didn't cover freedom and safety in an indirect way. Okay. I'll just say this in a direct way, connecting freedom and the specific term freedom and safety. Like, yeah, the idea of wearing a mask. Okay, there are some people who I mean, you see a whole range of ideas, opinions about, from the point of from there's no such thing happening to deliberate evil thing being perpetuated. So they have a whole range of that, right? But the attitude is, if the attitude that you enter into this game is the understanding of self. So by wearing the mask, the main thing is you're protecting self, right? And by protecting self here, you're protecting self there. And when you really protect self, then all selves have freedom. I hope that somewhat, I touched upon it somewhat. Okay. Keep self safe so that self can be free. And when self is safe, the community is safe. When self is free, the community is free. When self is confined, the community is confined. All right. But I'm really over now. All right. Anybody would like to ask questions? If there's anything that I missed that you would like me to talk, bring up?
I had
Ah,
so my video is not great right now. I have a
guess
little.
what? I can hear without this. Go ahead.
Um, you sort of touched briefly on um, like the Tong Len practice, like as sort of like a taking on some bitter medicine,
Mm-hmm.
the intention of it helping more generally. I think that's what you were alluding to, at least.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I get what what is the can you speak more on the like the subtleties of the intention of like taking something on that doesn't feel great,
Yeah.
wanting it to help.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, a couple of things to say on that. When someone is doing the practice of taking and giving, Tonglen, the foundation of it is love and compassion. The wisdom foundation of it, you could say, is a understanding of self. Remember, the practice, the other name of the practice is exchanging self for other. Not in the I'll wear your shoes, you wear my shoes kind of exchange. But what is being referred to is the fundamental understanding of what we call self and other that we are exchanging. It's not that we are taking on suffering of other and giving it to self, but rather we see self and we are taking away suffering from self. We've exchanged under fundamentally what we see as self. We are still benefiting self. It's just we've exchanged the location, you could say, where what we are pointing to as self. So when we are taking away the suffering of someone else, just to explain it to people, you say, oh, look at me, I'm taking this self is taking away the other's suffering. Okay, and I'm willing to suffer, right? That attitude is not the real attitude of Tonglen. The exchange didn't take place. The approach should be, look, I am hungry. And in the same way that when you're hungry, you go out to get food to take care of self. You see the other person hungry. You don't say, oh, I see another person hungry. Let me deprive this self so I can help that self. But rather you just say, oh, look at me. I am hungry. Let me go feed myself. Okay. Look at me. I am suffering. Let me take away my suffering. Okay. And that should be the understanding and the approach of when you're doing Tonglen. Okay. At first, when you see the need over there, your compassion is triggered, connecting you to, you could say, energy to act, to do. And what you are understanding is that self is in need, the same way that when we thought self here is in need and we take care of it, we see self is in need and we take care of it. It might seem a noble thing to do. I'm taking others' suffering and giving it to myself. If that is the attitude that we take, then in a sense, there is an unconscious perception that we are harming self. Okay. It should be a spontaneous wish to act. Self is suffering. Let me go help self. Okay. And then you do your Tonglen. You do the taking. And you do the giving. Self needs happiness. Let me give self happiness. Here's happiness. It's not, I have to give away my happiness that I earn, that I work hard to earn, and I'm not gonna have it anymore. Okay, here. There'll be a slight sense of resentment. and also the perception that you're depriving self of happiness. Okay? But whole self needs happiness. Okay, here you go. Here's happiness. Self is suffering. Oh, let me take it for you. Let me take it from self. Okay. I'll say this in addition. It's more like a grandpa giving advice. On the journey, there are things that seems to be, this is what I must do, and we struggle against it. And I'll tell you now, the reason that there is this initial struggle is because there's a perception of harming self. There shouldn't be harming self in the process. And sometimes it seems like the process is learn to harm yourself and get used to it. That's why we resist. That's why we never get to that place. And sometimes it seems like we are getting to that place where we're willing to completely destroy this so that we can help that. But that is happening with I'm destroying self. Don't think of self as the thing that is confined here. Okay, think of this interrelational thing that as real as it is experienced as being confined here, it can be as really experienced in a real way as being over there. And you want to get to that, but get to there in a way where you're not pretending. Okay. At first, when you take care of yourself in the way that you really know that you're not harming any perceived selves, whether it is this self or that self, then expand from that. You want to get to that, I'm helping, what might be said, I'm helping everyone, where the sense of it is not an ego trip, look at me helping everyone, but rather self is being helped. The same way I'm taking care of the nail here, it would be the same attitude, the same mindset, I'm helping everybody. You want to get to that mindset and get there organically by really, and it may sound like I'm asking you to be selfish, but it's the good selfish, okay? Really, it's like when you know in a visceral way the wishes and wants of this expression of self, then in a way you have an intimate knowledge about self everywhere. That they have intimate wishes, they have intimate wants, that they have, no, not necessarily because intimately the self wants gluten, everyone, every self you encounter wants gluten, but intimately knowing there's a deep desire here, and you can appreciate, deep desire is in every self. Okay. And to do it in a way where, not with any intention of seeking to shame self, because why do you want this? You shouldn't be wanting this. But just knowing that self wants. And I'll throw this in there. Eventually what self wants is self. I don't know, did that do anything but Tonglen? But then was it touched? Did the topic that what you wanted to talk about, did we touch it?
That was great. Thank you.
I have to drop off, but I'm just moved to really thank you for tackling these issues and talking about this, and just a very touching session today. And yeah, also just that of the self, and the question about the baby and the adult really landed as a way to understand that too. And yeah, just want to thank you so much.
Thank you.
And
okay, all right. Are we gonna meditate and sign off then? Okay, all right. Interesting, the sound, I didn't do anything, the sound started to, like, we hear again. Okay. And I have to say that I understand from the presentation that I made, it may have encouraged certain wrong ideas. If it's validating something you have at the surface of understanding, maybe that's not it. But it's validating something that you feel from the very deep within you. Maybe it's more pointing to that. Okay. So, sorry if I validated any wrong understandings. That wasn't the intention. Right, ready? Any questions? No, okay.
I don't have a question, Phuntsok, but I just wanted to say thank you.
Okay.
For answering the overall question. And one thing you said about how the self can't, the self isn't confined to either being oneness or individualities was so beautiful. That just was like, boom. That was great. It opened my mind. Thank you so much.
Great. No, thank you. Thank you. Thanks for sharing that. Okay. Wow, we really have a little time to meditate. Relatively little time. Okay, so we're going to do the same meditation. I wonder if you were experiencing something. Never mind. We'll talk about it later. Okay, so sit in a posture conducive to meditation. Make that intention. And happily recognize the body's cooperation, participation. Invite the participation and cooperation of the body. When you feel that sense of slightly making an adjustment here and there, that's the intelligence in the body communicating. Hey, I want to participate, I want to help. Okay, put your legs like this. Put your back like this. And as you are paying attention to that intelligence, allowing it to participate and taking in its advice, notice how you're already beginning to touch the meditative state. Already there's a sense of calm coming over. Already there's a pleasantness accompanying that calm. And as vividly as you can, try to recall how it felt like when you were in the meditative state. Remember the idea of visiting a another planet that is exactly like the planet you came from, but it is another planet. So have that sense of awe as you witness the experience, even though a lot of it may be very familiar. Doesn't seem to be something that is supposed to be in meditation. Say, oh, that's how this meditation is like. It's exactly like when I'm not in meditation. Okay. We just maintain that attitude as you feel the different experiences in the body, the different experiences in the breath, or similar, the experiences in the mind. Notice how that attitude itself is a trigger to go even deeper into the experience. And let us lock ourselves into that experience. That is, commit ourselves to fully experience it with a nice deep breath in through the nose, out the mouth, and completely release. Body in the breath, in the mind, let go, let go, let go, let go. Keep letting go, keep letting go, keep letting go, let go, go. And think of us, all of us, tonight, sitting in a circle. And you might notice there's a flicker, a flash, even faster than the flash of a moment where that sense that us was a real thing, as real as me. So try to stay connected to it, even in just memory. Us. And in the center of the circle, there is that collective us, a bright presence that we are connected to by a string of light coming from our hearts to its heart. And begin to transfer your awareness, not rejecting anything, but just becoming more and more aware of that bright presence. Like watching a movie and you begin to slowly no longer be aware of the movie theater, the other people in the theater, but just the movie itself. And there was no intention to remove the people from your perception. And the way reality is expressing that experience, that we have a vision of that center collective us expanding, 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 until from a what you might call an outside perspective, it's just that collective us. There are no longer the individual appearances, but it doesn't mean that the individual completely lost integrity of individual, but the collective self is prominent. And it continues to expand, filling the space, and now including everything, including everyone in your neighborhood, in your state, until the entire earth itself is in that collective us. In the same way you think about my toe, my hair, my finger, my thumb. It's me forest, me atmosphere, me river, me ocean, me birds. And keep that for a while until there's a visceral sense of me that is the coming together of everything. And keep that sense of the collective self, and it begins to contract again. And everything, every being, every person who has been touched by that collective us is no longer the same. They appear to be individuals, but there is a sense of being also a collective. And where we are in the circle, the collective in the center, connected to that light. And now the appearance of the collective sends light merging with each one of us. And each one of us, in our own individual way, become the collective. Get ready to come out of the meditation. Take a nice deep breath in through the nose, out the mouth. Before you reconnect with your immediate surroundings, make a dedication. Gyewa di kyo kun, sunam yeshe songzok shin, sunam yeshe lechung we, damba kunyi tobar sho. Now, deliberately reconnect with your immediate surroundings. Feel the temperature again through your sense of touch, the clothing on you. Be aware of the different sounds. Be aware again of light, shapes, and colors. Thank you.
Thank you, Phuntsok. For everybody on the
Right.
I'll put some links in the chat for the Patreon account as well as a Venmo account. If you're able to contribute for class, $20 is always appreciated. Helps keep this collective going. And a recording of this class will be up on Patreon in the morning. So if you want to rewatch or share, I'll be there for you there. Thanks, guys.
Okay. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was beautiful.